it comes to provider rate increases, I don't necessarily see a problem with it. I know that a lot of people look to Montana and how we have set it up. Alaska recently adopted a system very similar to Montana, and it is working there because they fully fund it and support it. It's helping the people in Alaska, and they've proven that. Fully supporting ours, I believe, would also show great benefit to the people of Montana. One of the things that I think a lot of people have taken up is the excess budget that we're going to have. We will have a lot of extra money. Whether it's $400 million, whether it's the current $260 million, because we don't get any more, there will be extra money there. We need to look at how that is allocated. I think that giving back to the people through aging and services, through health care, through things like that is a great way to give that money back to the people. There's also going to be other projects that people want to do, infrastructure, job growth, things like that, that are going to get a cut of the money. But some of that money definitely can go to aging services, disability, and provider increases. One of the things that a lot of people talk about is the inability for something like that to pass last session because of bickering and infighting party lines. I will make a promise to you right now that if I'm elected, there will be no party line votes for me. I will vote according to what is right for the people. I have already stood up and told party leaders in my party at the convention that we held here in Missoula that I was not going to vote the way that they wanted me to on our platform or on things like that here. My responsibility is not to my party. My responsibility is to the people of House District 96 that vote for me. If I'm elected, I will be accountable to you. And if the people tell me that they want this increased, I will work to increase it.
Of course, over the last several years, there have been freezes in other state employee salaries and so forth, and they have in the last year or so been released, and it's appropriate that the provider rate increases now. The freezes also be released and allowed to grow. The question here about the priority of this versus other priorities I have, I will say that my main priority in running was around education, but I don't see a conflict between that priority and healthcare issues. On healthcare issues, I'm particularly concerned about how the Affordable Care Act is implemented in Montana. I am concerned because it's been such a partisan issue, and yet I think is not at all uncertain that start again. All the talk of repeal in this election season is going to go away after the election because there is no political scenario whereby Republicans gain a supermajority in the Senate, which would be necessary for them to legislatively overturn ACA. Yet, people are drawing lines in the sand about how Medicaid expansion will be implemented in Montana, and the lines are politically driven and not always in the best interest of Montana. And that is my second priority, is getting Affordable Care Act implemented to the advantage of Montana, and the provider rate increases can be sort of added as a third healthcare issue.
I want to say first that I have to agree with Kim that the income disparity in this country is getting to the point that we're almost matching Mexico. People are rich and people are poor. People are falling out of the middle class, and part of that was the freeze in provider rates, the freeze in state employee salaries. This is something that I've been arguing about for years and years. Because if people who are middle-income people have the money to go in their communities and buy their groceries and buy their clothes for their kids, provide for their own homes, they're spending their money in their communities, and this is what makes our economy go. When we put all our money at the top, and we'll hear proposals as soon as we get into the legislature to cut all corporate taxes. That's how we can use this surplus money. We'll cut all the corporate taxes for international businesses, rather than putting our money into this state and its people. I just want to say one more thing about providers. As you note in your piece here, they are with people at the most intimate and neediest times of their day. If they are not properly trained and paid for the work that they do, we certainly cannot expect them to give people the kind of care they need. And as we all know, even when you think someone isn't responding to you, if you treat people respectfully and with good humor and a good heart, that's what they respond to. So I think this in particular is so important. And I want to say that Tim tried to reach out to the governor. We will have a new governor. And if it's Steve Bullock, I think we can get him to put this in his budget before we start this session.
As I look around the room, I see some of my friends that I've known for quite some period of time. They were with me when I initially launched my career in politics, which has been a long time ago, so I'm a little long in the tooth. And at that stage of the game, we were looking for an increase in caregivers, personal care attendants, who were making $3.15 an hour. And you know how we got an increase in wages for them? It was by the savings of the state of Montana on the work comp by Senator Dave Lewis, who currently serves there. And guess how much it was? 10 cents. I have been in every battle for the last 22 years in this particular effort. I have seen it, I have heard it, I have not liked it, I have disliked it, I have spoken out against it. There must be an increase in provider rates because individuals need to be provided a cost of living so that they can take care of individuals. Just as Sue said, there's a big turnover in personal care attendant. We finally got it so that the individuals could choose their own caregivers now, and that's an outstanding thing. We try to get the money when they leave the institutions to follow the patient from the institution Boulder to their home. I'm not quite sure if I can say yes or no we made it, but anyhow, we've made that effort. But providers, both on the state level as state employees, social workers, and those who work for the Department of Public Health and Human Services, those who work for Missoula Aging, and any of those providers and the cost and all should all be increased. We are going into a boom of the oil. Let's get some of that money and put it where it belongs for all of Montana.
And you just keep that microphone down there. Welcome Nancy Wilson to the podium, the tables. And we gave everyone the opportunity at the beginning to introduce themselves and briefly talk about your personal philosophy on government funding for support and services for older adults and individuals with disabilities to maintain their dignity and independence. So could you just take a moment and introduce yourself and address that?
All right, thank you very much. And I'm so sorry I'm late to the forum because this is one of my topics that I am most interested in. So I'm Nancy Wilson. I'm running for House District 97. I believe that we all should be cared for, and we need to work together to do that. So I believe that's government's job. Our government needs to, I'm sorry, I just got off work and biked over here, so my brain isn't quite attached yet, so give me just 2 seconds to gather my thoughts. But basically, we need to work together to take care of each other. We need to provide education, we need to provide health care, that's what government's role is. So I hope that we can do a better job of that. And instead of having money left over in the general fund in large amounts, I think it's better to actually provide the services that people need. So that would be my first request. The other thing I'd like you to know about me is I think one of the things that is a problem in this state is transportation. It's one of the things that I have been working in, and I think it's definitely a problem for aging and disabled folks is transportation. So it's something that I hope I can get engaged in if I'm elected, is to work with the Montana Department of Transportation and help them to understand that 1/3 of our population is unable to get from one place to another by driving, and that maybe we can invest a little bit better in that issue and help people to stay in their homes by providing a good way for them to be able to get about, and also ways to get people to medical care. And another thing that I've thought about in different forums is a way to keep people employed is to help young people engage with elderly people so that they can have jobs and helping the elderly, and the elderly can help the young people with life issues. So I believe those are things that we'd like to do. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you. This next issue is about aging services funding. The 2010 census shows that there are about 210,000 Montanans over the age of 60. It's the fastest growing part of our population is people who are 85 and over. Area agencies on aging provide core services to this community: nutrition programs, transportation, caregiver support, so that people can live independently for as long as possible. The participants pay what they can with the state, federal, and local governments sharing in the responsibility. 25% of Montana's older population is served by AAAs, Area Agencies on Aging. And they've been funded by the state over the years, but one of the primary problems is that it always ends up as being one-time only, or OTO funding, which means that these agencies never have the security of knowing that from year to year that they are in the base budget of the state and can continue their services with some kind of predictability. So the question here is, as a legislator, would you support providing permanent funding instead of one-time only funding in the amount of $3 million to the area agencies on aging in support of programs such as Meals on Wheels, respite care, senior transportation, and other vital services provided by the area agencies on aging? Would you also be willing to look at increasing this amount to account for the growth in the population and the cost of services over the past 6 years? Ms. Squires, would you start, please?
Absolutely. I am not tired, but I feel each and every time I get a paper plate that asks me, please do not let the aging services go away, the card, whatever. The aging services folks do a fantastic job of lobbying individuals, and that should not be the way that they have to do it. It should be in the budget permanently, so that towards the end of the budget, we're fighting, we're scraping, we're whatever, to get the funding in for this service. We owe it to the people in our state to take care of them, and if they want to stay home, like I would want to stay home if I got to that age where I can't get out and about, I would love to have those meals delivered to my house, or a caregiver come to my place and help me to make sure that I could stay there. But this temporary stuff, again, it's one of the items that I've seen in the last 22 years that is one of the last items that's put into the budget, and it's always been basically on a temporary basis. And it should not be that, it should be an ongoing. As far as the $400 million being a guesstimate, Mr. Terry Johnson is our legislative staff person who gives the Transportation and Revenue Oversight Committee their information about the tax flow. That's a pretty gelled up number. We should get it. Again, we're supposed to be getting revenue from the oil and gas production out, coal and oil out of the eastern part, and it's their responsibility to share with us, because we shared when it was timber on our side. Thank you.
Well, there's a statistic here that scares me to death, and that is that Montana's 85+ population is growing faster than any other age group in the state. When I was on the doors in the spring, and I was on the doors a lot in the spring, certainly I did run into several people who, one was a man out in East Missoula, and when I went with Meals on Wheels to deliver meals, we walked into his trailer, and he was sitting in a recliner in his trailer on Main Street in East Missoula, and he had buckets around the room, and the roof was leaking, water was pouring through, and it was raining hard at that time. And so I called Carrie, and I said, Carrie, there's this man in East Missoula, and he's sitting in his living room, and he seems to be fine, except, you know, his trailer is unlivable. And Susan Kohler responded, this is the very thing we want people who deliver Meals on Wheels to do, is let us know when people need these kinds of services and help. So what I was seeing as I was going around on the doors, as well as people just needing help with railing, breaking down on their porches, or different upkeep to their homes that they were unable to do themselves. So these kinds of community services, I know, are extremely important. They keep our costs down. We need to keep our area agencies who keep people in their homes fully funded, and I certainly will support the $3 million a year.